My daughter sold my house while I was on vacation to cover $200,000 of my son-in-law's debts. When I came back and knocked on the door, she opened it with a smile I didn't recognize. Behind her was Vincent, my son-in-law, with his arms crossed and that look of someone who just won something big.
Now you're homeless, Mom.
Jessica tossed out those words like someone taking out the trash. Vincent laughed. It was a short, dry laugh full of satisfaction. I just smiled. I didn't say anything. I just smiled calmly, looking at them both. Why are you smiling? Jessica's voice rose. She wasn't smiling anymore. Vincent stopped laughing, too. They both looked at me now with something different in their eyes. Nervousness, fear, maybe. What are you smiling about, Mom? I stayed quiet. I just looked at them for one more second. Then I turned around and walked toward the street. I let them stay there, standing in the doorway, wondering what I knew that they didn't. But let me tell you how we got here. How a 70-year-old woman, a widow, alone, ended up being betrayed by the only person she had left in the world. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 70 years old. And until 3 weeks ago, I had a house. A house that my husband and I bought when Jessica was 5 years old. A house where memories grew. Where we celebrated birthdays. Where we mourned losses. Where we grew old together. My husband died 8 years ago.
Heart attack quick. No advice.
One morning, he was having coffee with me in the kitchen. And that same afternoon, he was gone. That simple. That cruel. After that, I was alone. Jessica would come visit me once a month, sometimes less. Always in a hurry. Always with her phone in her hand. Always checking her watch. But she came, and I clung to those visits like you cling to a log in the middle of the sea. 6 months ago, Jessica came over. With Vincent. I had never liked him. He had that way of talking where every word seemed to be sizing you up. That smile that didn't reach his eyes. Those restless hands. Always looking for something. That day, they told me they wanted to talk. We sat in the living room, the same living room where Jessica had played as a child, where she'd opened Christmas presents, where she'd cried over her first broken heart. Mom, we want to propose something. Jessica had her hands clasped over her knees. Vincent watched her out of the corner of his eye, as if supervising every word. We want you to go on a trip. A month, 2 months, as long as you want. We'll pay for everything. You deserve a rest. Mom, you've worked your whole life. It sounded nice. It sounded generous. But there was something in the way she said it. Something in her tone. Something in the urgency of her eyes. I don't need to travel, honey. Vincent leaned forward. Eleanor, it's not about need. It's about enjoying yourself. You've given so much. It's time to get something back. I looked at my daughter. She nodded with too much energy, too much enthusiasm.
Fake.
And we just need one small thing, Mom. A power of attorney. Just for emergencies, in case something happens while you're gone, in case we need to pay for something, sign something. Nothing important. Nothing important. Those words should have made me run. But when you're 70 years old and your only daughter is asking you for something, when you've spent years feeling like you're a burden, that you're in the way, that you take up space, you say yes, even if something inside you is screaming no. I signed the power of attorney 3 days later at a notary's office downtown. Jessica was there smiling, squeezing my hand. Vincent waited outside, talking on his phone. I signed. The notary explained what it
meant.
I nodded. I signed again. 1 week later, I was on a plane to Europe. Jessica had organized everything. A tour of London, Paris, and Rome. Hotels paid, meals included, everything perfect, too perfect. During the trip, I tried to enjoy myself. I walked down ancient streets. I ate in restaurants with white tablecloths. I visited museums. But something wouldn't let me be calm. Something in my chest was vibrating like a taut wire about to snap. Jessica called me every 3 days. Always the same questions. How are you, Mom? Do you like it? Are you resting? She never asked about the house. Never mentioned anything about what was happening back home until one night 2 weeks after I'd left, I got a text from an unknown number. Eleanor, it's Maria Sanchez, your old neighbor. I need to talk to you urgently. Call me when you can. It's about your house, Maria. I hadn't spoken to her in years, not since she moved downtown to work in real estate, but I remembered her well. A good woman, the kind who doesn't forget a favor. I called her that night. Her voice sounded tense. Eleanor, I don't know how to tell you this. Some papers crossed my desk at the office today. Your house is for sale. Your daughter listed it a week ago. The world stopped. The lights of Paris outside my window. The sound of the street. It all faded away. Are you sure, Maria?
Completely.
I saw the documents. She used the power of attorney. The sale is already in escrow. I hung up. I sat on the hotel bed. I breathed once, twice, 3 times. Then I knew. I knew everything. That's why the trip. That's why the power of attorney. That's why all the sudden generosity. But I also knew something else, something they didn't know. I flew back to the States 2 days later. Canceled the rest of the tour. I took the first available flight. When I got to my house, there it was, a new lock on the door, the keys that no longer worked, and the certainty that my daughter had sold me out. I rang the doorbell. Jessica opened it. And she said those words I will never forget. Now you're homeless, Mom. I just smiled because I knew something they would find out very soon. The property they sold wasn't what they thought it was. When Jessica was little, she used to wake up in the middle of the night crying. Nightmares, always the same ones. She dreamed she was alone in an empty house and no one was coming for her. I would run to her room, hold her, and sing softly until she fell back asleep. I'd stay there sitting on the floor by her bed, my back against the wall, watching over her sleep until sunrise. That's what a mother did. That's what I did for years. Now, standing in front of that padlocked door, I remembered every one of those nights. Every time I gave up my sleep to protect hers, every time I put her needs before mine, and I wondered at what point did the little girl who was afraid of being alone become the woman who left me homeless. My husband Arthur died on a Tuesday. I remember because we had planned to go to the farmer's market that day. He loved the farmer's market. He loved to haggle with the vendors, feel the fruit to see what was ripe, pick out fresh flowers for the kitchen table. That morning, he got up early as always, made coffee. I heard him from the bedroom. That familiar sound of cups clinking on the counter, the water boiling, his bare feet on the hardwood floor. When I came down, he was sitting at the table with a newspaper open. He looked at me and smiled. That smile I had seen thousands of times over 40 years of marriage. I sat across from him. We drank coffee together. We talked about the weather, about nothing important, about everything. 10 minutes later, he put his hand to his chest. His eyes went wide. He said my name just once. Eleanor.
Like that.
Soft like a sigh. Then he collapsed onto the table. I called 911. I screamed. I cried. I tried to wake him, but he was already gone. Quick, without warning, without giving me time to tell him how much I loved him. Without giving me time to say goodbye, Jessica got to the hospital 3 hours later. She was wearing makeup. Her hair was perfect, high heels, as if she'd come from an important meeting. She hugged me. She cried a little, but her tears dried up too quickly. At the funeral, she was on her phone half the time, answering texts, checking Facebook, as if her father's death was just an inconvenience in her schedule. After that, the visits became more spaced out. Once a month, once every 2 months, always in a hurry, always with excuses, always with Vincent waiting for her in the car, honking the horn if she took too long. I understood, or that's what I told myself. She had her life, her marriage, her things. I couldn't expect her to be with me all the time. But the nights were long. The house was big, and the silence weighed on my chest like a stone. I sold a few things. Furniture I no longer used. Arthur's clothes that hurt me to see hanging in the closet. I got by on that money. My Social Security wasn't much. $800 a month, enough to live on if you were careful. If you didn't get sick, if you didn't need anything extra. Jessica never asked if I needed help. Never offered money, but I never asked either. I had my pride. I had my dignity. And above all, I didn't want to be a burden. A year ago, Vincent lost his job. Jessica told me during one of those quick visits. We had tea in the living room. She stared out the window while she talked as if the words hurt. Vincent had some trouble at the company. Mom, he was fired. They say there were irregularities in the accounts. But he's innocent. It was just bad luck. I nodded. I didn't say anything, but I saw something in her eyes. Worry, fear, and something else. Something I didn't want to name at that moment. The following months, the visits got even stranger. Jessica would arrive and walk through the house looking at everything, the walls, the furniture, the backyard, like she was measuring, calculating. One day, I found her in Arthur's study. She was going through papers, old documents, deeds. What are you doing, honey? She jumped. She shut the drawer quickly. Nothing, Mom. Just looking for an old picture of Dad to put up in my house. She was lying. I knew it. But I let it go because you want to believe. Because you need to believe your daughter isn't capable of certain things. Vincent started coming inside with her. Before he always waited outside.
Now he came in. He sat down.
He looked around with those eyes that calculated the value of everything. He asked questions. Eleanor, how long ago did you buy this house? What's it worth now? Is the mortgage paid off? I answered, naive, trusting, thinking it was just conversation. Then that day came 6 months ago when they proposed the trip, when they asked for the power of attorney, when everything started to fall into place. That night after they left, I sat in the living room in the dark, listening to the silence of the house, listening to the memories that lived in every corner. I remembered when we bought this house. Arthur and I had just gotten married. He worked in construction. I cleaned houses. We saved every penny for 5 years. We ate beans and rice. We wore old clothes. We didn't go anywhere. All to scrape together the down payment for this house. The day we closed was a Saturday. I remember it was raining. Arthur carried me over the threshold. We were both soaked. We both laughed like children. This is our house, Eleanor. No one can take it from us.
A lie.
Someone could take it from us. Our own daughter. I remembered the day Jessica was born. 20 hours of labor.
Pain that has no name.
But when they put her in my arms, when I saw her open eyes looking at me, it was all worth it. I promised her I would always protect her, that she would never want for anything, that I would be a good mother. I kept my promise. I worked 2 jobs to send her to a private school. Arthur worked from sunrise to sunset. We both sacrificed. We both put our dreams aside, so she could have hers. Jessica wanted to study business. We paid for her college, 5 years, full tuition, books, new clothes for her classes, everything. When she graduated, Arthur cried with pride.
So did I.
Our daughter was a professional. Our daughter was going to be okay. It had all been worth it. Then she met Vincent. She brought him to meet us one afternoon. He wore an expensive suit, a shiny watch, a brand new car. He talked about deals, about investments, about money. Arthur didn't say anything that night, but later when we were alone in our room, he squeezed my hand. I don't like that man, Eleanor. He's got shark's eyes. I asked him to give him a chance. That Jessica loved him. That we had to trust her judgment. Arthur nodded, but he never changed his mind. They got married 6 months later. Big wedding, expensive. Vincent insisted on paying for everything. He didn't want us to contribute anything. He said he could handle it, that we had already done enough. At the wedding, Jessica danced with Arthur. I saw my husband cry as he held her. I saw him whisper something in her ear. She nodded, smiled, kissed him on the cheek. I found out later he had told her, "Take good care of her. She's all we have." Vincent did not take good care of her. Vincent turned her into someone I didn't recognize, someone who measured the value of things only in money, someone who saw her own mother as a resource. The first few years of the marriage were good. They came for dinner on Sundays. Jessica brought dessert. Vincent talked about his successful business deals, about important clients, big contracts. It all sounded good, but then Arthur died and something changed. The visits spaced out. The calls got shorter. Jessica was always in a hurry, always had something more important to do. I told myself it was normal, that she had her own life. But the truth is, it hurt. It hurt every time she hung up the phone quickly. Every time she canceled a visit. Every time she made me feel like I was a burden. And now this. Now the complete betrayal. Now the confirmation that to her I was just an obstacle, a problem, something to be solved. That night, sitting in the darkness of my living room, I made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to shed any more tears for someone who didn't deserve them. I was going to do something better. I was going to be smart. I was going to protect myself. Because if Arthur taught me one thing, it was this. In this world, you have to look out for yourself because no one else will. The next day, I signed the power of attorney. I smiled as I did it. I thanked them for the trip. I packed my bag. I said my goodbyes. And I went to Europe with a plan they never saw coming. The day before I left for Europe, Jessica came over early. She brought flowers. Pink roses, my favorite. That should have alerted me. Jessica never remembered. My favorite flowers. She never remembered my birthday unless someone reminded her. And there she was with a perfect bouquet, smiling too wide. Mom, how exciting. You leave for your trip tomorrow. She put the flowers on the kitchen table. She moved through my house with a strange familiarity, opening drawers, looking at papers, touching things she didn't need to touch. Do you have everything ready? Passport? Bags? Yes, honey. All set.
Perfect.
And remember, we'll take care of everything here.
Don't you worry about a thing.
Just enjoy yourself. You deserve it. She hugged me. It was a long hug, too long, as if she were saying goodbye to more than just me. When she pulled away, her eyes were shining. For a moment, I thought it was tears. But no, it was something else. Relief, maybe, or anticipation. Vincent arrived an hour later. He had papers in a leather briefcase. He sat down at the dining room table without being invited. He opened the briefcase and spread documents out on the table. Eleanor, we just need you to sign here and here. It's just some additional authorizations in case we need to do anything urgent while you're away. What kind of things? Anything. Paying utilities, renewing registrations, banking stuff. You know, the usual. Usual, that word again. Everything was normal to them. Everything was simple. Everything was necessary. I took the pen. I held it over the first document. I read the first few lines. Legal jargon I didn't fully understand. Broad powers, irrevocable authority, total representation. Are you sure you need all this? Vincent looked at me, with that smile I already knew. Patient, condescending, like someone explaining something obvious to someone slow. Eleanor, it's just a precaution. Besides, you trust your daughter, right? That question, that damned question.
How?
Do you say you don't trust your own daughter? How do you admit out loud that there's something in her eyes that scares you? I signed once, twice, 3 times. Vincent gathered the papers quickly. He put them in his briefcase like someone locking away a treasure. Excellent. Now you can really go and relax. We'll take care of everything. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake staring at my bedroom ceiling. The same room where I had slept with Arthur for 40 years. The same one where he had died in my arms that morning 8 years ago when his heart decided to give up without warning. Something wasn't right. I knew it. I felt it in my bones. In that instinct you develop after 70 years of life. That instinct that tells you when someone is lying to you, when someone is using you. But I had already signed. I had already given them the power. It was too late to back out without looking like a paranoid, suspicious old woman.
Or so I thought.
I got up at 5 in the morning, made coffee. I sat in the kitchen waiting for the sunrise. When the light started to filter through the windows, I made a decision. I dialed a number I had kept for years. My lawyers, the same one who had helped Arthur and me buy the house, the same one who had drafted our wills. Mr. Coleman, it's Eleanor Hayes. I need to see you today. It's urgent. I got to his office at 9. He greeted me with coffee and that kindness only truly decent people have. I told him everything, the trip, the power of attorney, the signatures. He listened in silence. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. Eleanor, with that power of attorney, Your daughter can do practically anything with your properties. Sell, mortgage, transfer. I knew it. Deep down, I knew it. But hearing it out loud made it all real.
Palpable, terrifying.
Is there anything I can do?
He
Thought for a moment. He drummed his fingers on the desk. Then he nodded. There is something, but you have to trust me and you have to act fast. He explained the plan. I listened to every word, every detail. When he finished, I looked him in the eyes. Will it work? If your daughter does what you think she's going to do, yes, it will work perfectly. That same day, we made the necessary moves. New documents, strategic transfers, all legal, all registered, all of it invisible to anyone who didn't know where to look. When I left that office, the sun was high. It was hot. The city was humming with its usual noise. But I walked differently. I was no longer the vulnerable old woman they could fool. I was no longer the naive mother who trusted blindly. I was someone else. Someone who was about to teach them a lesson they would never forget. That afternoon, Jessica called again. Her voice sounded cheerful. Excessively cheerful. Mom, all set for tomorrow. Vincent and I can pick you up and take you to the airport. You don't need to get a car service. That's not necessary, honey. I already arranged for a car. There was a brief silence. Are you okay, Mom? You sound strange.
I'm fine.
Just tired from packing. Well, enjoy the trip. You deserve it. You really, really deserve it. Those words, you deserve it. As if the trip were a prize. As if they were doing me a favor. When in reality, it was the perfect distraction to rob me blind. Thank you, honey. I hung up. I sat on the living room sofa. I looked at the photographs on the wall. Arthur and me on our wedding day. Jessica as a baby. Jessica at her graduation. A family that was once happy. A family that once loved each other. When did it all break? When did my daughter stop seeing me as her mother and start seeing me as a way to get money? Maybe when she met Vincent. Maybe when he filled her head with expensive dreams and oversized ambitions. Maybe when she decided that love was worth less than money. Or maybe she was always this way, and I just refused to see it. Maybe there was always something in her that preferred material things to people, and I, blind with motherly love, never recognized it. That night, I put some important things in a small safe I had hidden in my closet, photographs, documents, my grandmother's jewelry that Arthur had given me. Things that had sentimental value, not monetary value, things Jessica would never understand. I closed the safe, turned the combination. I hid it behind old clothes no one would ever look through. The next day, I got on the plane. The flight was long, uncomfortable. I wasn't used to flying. I didn't like heights. I didn't like being trapped in that metal tube floating over the ocean. But I did it because I needed to be far away. Because I needed them to think I was far away. That I was distracted. That I was helpless. London received me with rain. I took a cab to the hotel, a small but clean place in the city center. I left my bags and sat on the bed. I took out my phone. I had 3 texts from Jessica. Mom, did you land okay? Mom, let me know when you get in.
Mom, I'm worried.
Worried? What an ironic word coming from her. I texted back, landed safely.
I'm tired.
Let's talk tomorrow. I couldn't sleep that night. Not because of the time change, not because of the strange bed, but because I knew what was about to happen. I knew that at some point in the coming days or weeks, Jessica would make the move I was expecting. And when she did, I would be ready. I spent the next few days walking around London without really seeing anything. I went into museums and couldn't remember what I'd seen. I ate in restaurants and didn't taste the food. It was all mechanical. It was all just waiting until the text from Maria came. Eleanor, it's Maria Sanchez, your old neighbor. I need to talk to you urgently. It's about your house. My heart stopped. I took a deep breath. I dialed her number with trembling hands. Maria Eleanor, thanks for calling. I didn't know if I should tell you this, but your house is for sale. I saw the papers today at the office. Your daughter listed it. It already has offers. What's the asking price? $250,000. The air left my lungs. $250,000. The house Arthur and I had bought for $50,000 all those years ago. The house we had paid for with sweat and tears. Thank you for telling me, Maria. Eleanor, I'm so sorry. If you need anything, you've already done enough. I appreciate it. I hung up. I sat there in that hotel room in London, thousands of miles from home, knowing that my daughter was betraying me at that very moment, but also knowing that I had prepared something she never saw coming. I smiled. It was a sad smile, a bitter one, but it was a smile. Now I just had to wait. I flew back to the States 2 weeks after Maria's call. I canceled the rest of the tour. I made up an excuse about feeling sick. Jessica called me worried when I told her I was coming back early. Her voice sounded nervous, too high-pitched. Are you sick, Mom? Do you need us to pick you up from the airport?
No, honey.
I just want to be home. I've already arranged for a car. But, Mom, you still have 2 weeks left on your trip. It's all paid for. I know, but I want to come home. There was a long silence on the other end. I heard muffled voices. Vincent talking fast, whispering something I couldn't understand. Okay, Mom. We'll see you at home then. She hung up quickly. Too quickly. The flight back was eternal. I didn't eat. I just stared out the window at that infinite darkness, thinking about what was waiting for me. Thinking about the look on Jessica's face when she saw me. Thinking about the lies she was already preparing. I landed on a Tuesday morning. I took a cab straight to my house. The whole ride. My heart was pounding so hard I thought the driver could hear it. I looked out the window at the familiar streets, my neighborhood, my block. Everything looked the same, but everything had changed. When the taxi stopped in front of my house, the first thing I saw was the sign big red for sale planted on my lawn like an obscene declaration of betrayal. I paid the driver. I got out slowly. My legs were shaking, but I couldn't let it show. I walked to the door. I got out my keys. I put them in the lock. They didn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. The lock had been changed. My own house was rejecting me. The keys I had carried for 42 years were useless. I rang the doorbell. I waited. Nothing. I rang again. Harder. Silence. I took out my phone and dialed Jessica's number. It rang 5 times before she answered. Mom, you're back. It wasn't a question. It was a confirmation of something she already knew. Jessica, I'm at the house. I can't get in. They changed the lock. Oh, right. There was a problem with the door. We had to change the lock. Come to the apartment. I'll explain everything there. What problem? Why didn't you tell me? Mom, we didn't want to worry you. You were on vacation. We can talk calmly at the apartment. She hung up before I could say anything else. I stood there on the porch of my own house with a for sale sign mocking me from the yard with the useless keys in my hand with 70 years of life weighing on my shoulders like rocks. A neighbor walked by, Mrs. Gable. She lived 3 doors down. She looked at me with pity. That look people give you when they know something terrible that you haven't confirmed yet. Eleanor, it's good to see you back. I saw they put the house up for sale. Are you moving? I smiled. That fake smile you learn to make after 70 years of politeness and good manners. We're just looking at options, Mrs. Gable. Oh, how nice. Well, if you need anything, you know where I live. She walked away quickly, as if my misfortune was contagious. As if she didn't want to be nearby when it all exploded. I took another cab. I gave the driver Jessica's address. The driver didn't speak the whole way. Maybe he saw something in my face. Maybe he was just a respectful man. It didn't matter. I was grateful for it. I got to the building. That flashy place with the marble lobby and the doorman in a uniform. I walked in without greeting anyone. I got in the elevator. I pressed the button for the 10th floor. The doors closed, and for a moment I was alone in that metal cube rising toward the sky. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. I prepared myself. When the doors opened, there she was, Jessica, waiting for me in the hallway, dressed in expensive clothes, perfect makeup, freshly styled hair, as if she were about to go to a party and not confront the mother she had just betrayed. Mom. Come on in. Her voice was too cheerful, forced fake. I walked into the apartment. Vincent was sitting on the sofa. He had a glass of whiskey in his hand, even though it was barely 10 o'clock in the morning. He looked at me and nodded. That gesture he always made, as if I were an employee, as if my presence was barely tolerable.
Sit down, Mom.
I'd rather stand. Jessica sighed. She crossed her arms. She wasn't smiling anymore. The mask had fallen. Fine, though I'll tell you standing up. We sold the house. The words hit me like hammer blows. Even though I knew, even though Maria had warned me, even though I had been preparing for this moment for 2 weeks, hearing it from her mouth was different. It was like being stabbed by someone you swore would never hurt you.
How could you?
My voice came out small, broken. I hated sounding like that. I hated giving them that satisfaction, but I couldn't help it. Vincent got up from the sofa. He walked toward me with that condescending smile I hated so much. Look, Eleanor, it's not personal. It's business. I had debts. $200,000. Dangerous people. If I didn't pay, we were going to lose everything. The house was the solution. It was my house. It was a house, Eleanor. Just a house. You have your Social Security. You can rent a small place, an apartment, a room. There are options. Options. As if 70 years of memories could be packed into a room. As if the place where I buried my husband, where I raised my daughter, where I built my life, could be replaced with something small and cheap. Jessica came closer. She put her hand on my shoulder, a gesture that was meant to be comforting, but it felt like poison.
Mom, understand.
We had no choice. Besides, you gave us the power of attorney.
You signed.
It's all legal. Legal. That word. As if legality erased the betrayal, as if a signed paper justified stealing your own mother's life. When does the sale close? Vincent and Jessica exchanged a look. It already closed, Mom. A week ago, the money is already in the bank. The debts are paid. It's done. I stared at them, both of them. My daughter and the man who had turned her into this. I saw something in their eyes that chilled my blood. There was no remorse, no guilt. There was only relief and something else. Triumph. They thought they had won. They thought they